Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 2023 JLUG. I'm sorry not to be able to be there with you in person, but hopefully you find this pre-recorded video interesting and useful, and I hope to see you again at future events. So first of all, I'd like to talk about the LTS releases of Lustre. So the Lustre 2.15 release came out just over a year ago and has taken over from the 2.12 as the primary LTS release, the active LTS release. So of course, there are still many production deployments of Lustre 2.12 and will be for years to come. But for people doing new deployments or wanting to stay up to date with the latest updates as they come out, they're switching over to the 2.15 release. So we've had a number of maintenance releases since the initial 2.15 came out. As you can see from the bar chart in the top right there, it was even back in March when this survey was conducted, there was still a significant number of sites who were already using 2.15 in production. And then with this pie chart in the bottom right, you can see that between people who were already using Lustre 2.15 and those who intended to do so over the coming months, that it does make up for a majority of people having at least one 2.15 site in production. So we're currently working on 2.15.4 release, and that should be out by the end of the year. The main deliverables there will be Red Hat 8.9 server and client support and Red Hat 9.3 client support. And so now those are both out of beta and is available GA. We are just finalizing the release, and I would think by the time that you see this video, we will already be testing our RC1. Moving on to the major releases. So the major release we're working on presently is 2.16, and that one is a little overdue. The reason being the main feature we're providing in this release is the IPv6 support. And so this is developments that Oak Ridge National Labs and SUSE have been driving, and that's been a huge amount of work. But we're just getting to the point where it's been confirmed that third parties are able to pick up the remaining, the work and the remaining unlanded patches to conduct some initial testing of this functionality. And we're down to the last handful of patches that we would hope to be merged soon. So based on getting to this point, we now expect that the final release will be available in the early part of next year. So we did just do a refresh of the Lustre.org roadmap based on that guidance about the 2.16 release. And so we can see with 2.16, looking now, we have about a year cadence between the major releases normally. Earlier in Lustre's history, we did used to do more frequent releases, but now as we have a more mature feature set, and we do have the LTS release, which is what the majority of users are choosing to use for their production deployments, we've settled upon about a year being about the right sort of balance of frequency for releases. So beyond 2.16, going forward into 2025, we would see the 2.17 release with client-side data compression. And also Oak Ridge National Labs have indicated that once they're finished with IPv6, that finishing off erasure coding will be the next thing that they will tackle. And then going forward into 2026, for the 2.18 release, we'll be looking by then for Red Hat 10 server support and also metadata redundancy. At least the first phase of that should be available in that time frame. So talking of new Red Hat releases, it's always one of the things we're considering in the Lustre working group is what would be the appropriate time to switch. So we say here, don't panic, this is not something imminent. Most people are still thinking about or just recovering from or moving systems to 2.15 to get Red Hat 8 server support. But at some point, we will need to move to Red Hat 9 server support. And with not having very frequent releases, we do want to sort of plan ahead, think ahead. And so with the OpenSFS survey that comes out next, in the new year in March, we will be asking questions just to start getting people's opinions here and to start to build up our thinking around the right timing for the next switch. So I do encourage you to participate in that survey. It's a good way to make sure your viewpoints are considered. Yes, and we'll obviously provide plenty of advance notice and warning before any further changes are made. And so I always like to also mention about how to contribute to Lustre in these kind of talks. Completing the OpenSFS survey is probably the easiest way that anyone can. Also, attending events like the one you're at today is a very good way. That kind of networking, getting to talk more directly to those involved in creating the software can really help to sort of make for more useful software in a good community. And then also with the documentation, that's something which doesn't require the same sort of degree of involvement as maybe writing code would, but anyone who's administering a Lustre cluster knows if the instructions in the manual or on the wiki if they work accurately or if they could be improved. And so if you find something that doesn't be what it seems like it should, please let us know, and we'll try and put it right. And then finally, we do use the Atlassian software in our development infrastructure, and both Jira and Confluence. And because of changes with the way those products are distributed, it does mean that we're going to be having to do some upgrades, migration behind the scenes. Mostly that should be invisible to the Lustre community, but there might be some periods where we we'll obviously alert you on the mailing list if there are going to be some brief outages. I did want to sort of flag this though, because we are at the same time doing some data cleanup, and so if there's any sort of accounts that you've not used for many years and you go to use them, you may find that they are no longer working, and that's just part of this sort of cleanup exercise we're doing ahead of the migration. But so just drop us a note and we'll make sure we get things reinstated for you. So normally at this point would be when I'd ask for questions from the audience. I'm not in a position to do that today, but I hope my DDN colleagues in the room can answer any questions you have. If not, then certainly they can connect with me and I'll make sure you get answers in due course. So thank you for your attention, and I hope I will see you at a future event. Thanks very much, everybody.